comes and goes on a rainbow. He is the Culture Blaster, everyone. Please put it together for Michael Snyder, the Culture Blaster. Look at you. How are you,
Hey,
Michael?
Mark, I applaud your dedication to doing a show today, despite having to apparently use dial-up to be here for your 75,000 subscribers. So good
It's
on you,
clicking in and
buddy.
out. It's clicking in and out. I know. Very hard to keep a clean signal. You know, what with
Anyway,
the what with the
as we
interference and
approach
all.
as we approach
Yes.
Thanksgiving, I must again decry the senseless slaughter of so many innocent cranberries. This is a crime against
Yes.
nature, my people.
I'll hit decry with a ding word. Thank you. Yeah.
And, one more Thanksgiving note. I call it a hazmat alert. Don't eat any of that awful yam gunk covered in tiny marshmallows. That is the side dish from hell. I'm just giving you a warning about it.
Oh,
It's just
thank you. That added
never
value to your segment. Thank you, Michael.
never any good. I'm excited. I hope everyone has a great Thanksgiving. And I'm happy to report that there are no out and out turkeys among the movies I'm covering today.
No.
Before we get into that, I do want to say if you are looking for the perfect Thanksgiving movie and none of the films that I talk about appeal to you, you could definitely have a great time watching or rewatching Planes, Trains, and Automobiles from 1987, which is a road trip comedy that John Hughes directed and wrote, and it stars Steve Martin and John Candy as two guys trying to get to their respective destinations on Thanksgiving and not getting along with one another very well. It is a funny, lovely, sweet movie. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles should be available for streaming somewhere in the internet. So let's get to new stuff. What do you say?
I agree, and I agree on the Steve Martin and John Candy magic in that movie. But everybody's magic in that movie. It's a beautiful movie and funny as hell. So good recommendation.
Okay. As for new stuff, let's kick things off with Moana 2, which continues the story of the brave Pacific Island girl Moana and her demigod buddy Maui with Oli Cravalho and Dwayne Johnson back to voice Moana and Maui from the first film. This is a lively retread that's easy to like but not to love as much as the first Moana, which introduced the daring teenage girl who becomes a wayfinder, someone capable of navigating the ocean to find a means to end the blight that's plaguing her peaceful island-bound people. And on that initial quest, she meets the once fearsome Maui, the demigod, who she helps find his mojo, and he in turn helps her solve her issues. And in the sequel, Moana decides to gather a motley crew for a new mission. It's not just her and her little chicken and her pig, and then Maui. It's a handful of other islanders. And like the sea that carries her and this now larger but less defined group of comrades on a vague mission to unite all the people of the far-flung islands, this movie churns a lot and is, bound by infrequent but placid moments, and it just generally doesn't have the emotional impact of the first Moana. As for the songs, because like that first film, it's an animated musical, they didn't strike me as particularly memorable at initial listen. I mean, compared to, I don't know, Popular from Wicked, or to get a little more close to home, previous Disney musical numbers like Part of Your World from Little Mermaid or Belle's Song from Beauty and the Beast, the Moana 2 tunes didn't stick, and nothing attains the ear friendliness of the songs written for the first movie by Lin-Manuel Miranda, Mr. Hamilton himself, especially
So
How Far I'll
Lin-Manuel
Go.
Miranda was not involved in this in any way, Michael Snyder?
No, sir, he was not. In any
No?
case, though, it looks
What?
beautiful. They have
Yeah.
so
All right.
mastered, the sea, and it's surging. The sea is like another character. It's Moana's pal, and there is a villainous god who wants to bring down all of these people and keep them separated from one another, these different communities in different islands. And he has a cruel agenda and a few hench people. There's like a tribe of like animated coconuts that are kind of funny and engaging.
What?
And it does end on a note that seems like finality or something with potential for the future, and then they throw in an after credits or end movie cliffhanger. So clearly they're thinking about Moana 3. I don't
Oh
know,
my God, please with
I mean,
Moana. I mean, so it sounds like we should do a lot of edibles if you want to go to see this movie. And
it's beautiful to
yeah,
look at, Mark,
beautiful to
honestly.
look at, a great experience in dancing coconuts. You had me at
Yeah,
dancing coconuts.
I don't know. Great
Where are
experience
my
isn't a
weed
phrase
smokers at?
Yeah,
that
thank you.
comes
I'm
to
on it.
mind. But yeah, when the coconuts show up, I think if you're stoned, you'll probably think it's the greatest movie ever made.
I'm loving it. I am already,
Smashed it
I'm
with your iron
I'm
rod.
loving. I'm looking forward to giving it a thumbs up, even though there's no place to give it a thumbs up.
No, I'm giving it kind of one of them waving mediocre hands. You know, three directors, by the way, have had to combine their talents to make this film. So
Now, why is
maybe it's
that? Is that because the
too
first
many,
two were fired, or what happened?
I don't know, too many cooks spoil the surging ocean. I have no idea what to
Wow.
even
Okay.
say about
You
that.
just don't get it, do you?
I don't.
You don't.
I don't get it. All right.
Let's
Okay. Go
let's
ahead.
move on to something I can really endorse. I mean, it's okay. It's a fun film for the family. It just isn't anywhere near the first film. That's what I'm trying to say.
Okay. Sure. I get it.
Okay. Here's something I really can endorse. Now, if there was any doubt that Daniel Craig has left the role of James Bond behind, his gutsy, and let me call it a sweat-soaked performance in Queer will put that to rest. Queer, the latest movie from the acclaimed Italian filmmaker Luca Guadagnino, the guy who did Challengers and Call Me by Your Name, for instance, is an occasionally hallucinogenic and sexually explicit adaptation of William S. Burroughs' fever dream semi-autobiographical novel of the same name. So Craig plays the Burroughs role of William Lee, a gay writer and kind of dissolute American expat whose various addictions and his obsession with a handsome younger man lead him on a journey from Mexico City's Randy bar scene to the jungles of South America in the early 1950s. I mean, Craig's hedonistic character Lee is decidedly not 007. In fact, more like double blow 7, if you get what I'm saying here.
No, I don't get what you're saying. What do you mean?
He's a gay man, for God's sake. Anyway, there's a pudgy Jason Schwartzman on board as a fellow expat inspired by
You
Burroughs'
just don't get it, do you?
I don't.
fellow
I don't get it. No, you're right. I don't.
beatnik writer Allen Ginsberg. Schwartzman is good. So the situation is he's the character of William Lee is enamored of this former U.S. soldier named Eugene Allerton, played by Drew Starkey, a handsome man. And he woos this guy, and they eventually go off together on this odyssey into the jungle. And in the jungle, they meet Dr. Cotter, not with a K, with a C. And this is a greasy, grimy female American botanist gone native in the jungle, where she's, quote, researching, end quote, mind-altering plants. And she's played by an unrecognizable Leslie Manville, most recently the tormented wife of a dead 20-something in the terrific miniseries Disclaimer, and the dowdy lead in the charming period dramedy Mrs. Harris Goes to Paris. She is completely unlike those other roles, she has disappeared into this character of Dr. Cotter. So, bringing a novel by an unconventional master of cut and paste narrative, such as Burroughs, seems like a hell of a task. But Guadagnino and screenwriter Jason Kuritzkis were up to it. I mean, they break the story into 3 chapters, and they shift from this gritty, fetid reality to Lee's dope-fueled reveries. And although Queer may not be as flagrantly bizarre as David Cronenberg's film version of Burroughs' other Romana Clef, Naked Lunch, it has its own psychedelic flair, especially when visualizing Lee's desires and drug trips, and Lee's odyssey into this psychological heart of darkness parallels his trip south with Eugene, and that's the heart of the movie. And that heart beats so furiously thanks to Craig giving everything he has on screen. Like Cynthia Erivo's Elphaba in Wicked, Craig's really complex and compulsively hedonistic performance as Lee seems to guarantee the actor nomination after nomination during the coming awards season. And speaking of Craig playing LGBTQ Americans, it should tide us over. until he reprises his Southern Fried Detective Benoit Blanc in the next Knives Out movie. Queer will not be for everyone. Some people will be shocked and offended, I think, even in 2024. But I thought it was very well done. It is in theaters starting this weekend.
I don't want to ask this question yet. I have to ask this question. Do we see sex on screen, or do we see because you make such a big deal out of him being this sort of Lothario?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we do. We
Hello?
see sex. I
Yeah.
said sexually
Okay.
explicit adaptation. That's exactly what you said.
I didn't hear that part. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I've got
Iron rod.
You're in and out
Yeah,
of
like
the signal
there
here
are
is in
iron
and out.
rods involved. There are iron rods involved.
Wow. Okay, so that could be a little
okay,
bit much, but okay, so that's in theaters.
It is indeed in select theaters.
And by the way, let me just
we
say
have-
something before I get an email about it. But I'm happy to respond to any emails. I just have an aversion to sex. I don't care, gay sex, straight sex, whatever. It's not a question of gay straight. It's a question of it's sometimes seeing. I don't need to see the sex all the time. I am prudish that way. I think in my movie going. I don't know. Maybe that was baked into me at an early age or something. But I'm not, as you know, I'm totally open on sex thing. But just seeing it on screen can be a little unsettling. You know. I'm sorry, Michael. Maybe I should see someone about that.
This character, William Lee, based on Burroughs himself, is driven by carnal desire.
Right.
Thwarted,
so you need to
and
see
then,
it. I get it. Yeah.
No, I'm just saying that character, that's part of the character. You know, you can't escape that. And Craig was willing to go all out, although, you know, the magic of the movies, what can I say? I'm sure there was an intimacy coordinator on set. Let's put it that way.
Yeah.
Okay. The Seed of the Sacred Fig is a very impressive and upsetting drama. And it comes from Iran. And, you know, it is about what happens when the political and the personal collide in a totalitarian theocracy. The director and screenwriter is a man named Mohammed Rasulov. And this movie, The Seed of the Sacred Fig, was shot over there in Tehran, I think, in secret. And you don't get the sense that that's the case, but there is found footage and archival things about university protests that exploded over the past few years about the oppression of the government. And the main character is a guy who is a judge in Tehran. He investigates ostensible crimes, whether they're trumped up, pardon the expression, or not, whether they're violating religious order or your standard criminal behavior. And he thinks he's going to get some kind of promotion, but there's all this unrest going on in town, and he starts to feel like maybe he's going to be targeted for not being as much of a hardliner as he should be. And meanwhile, his wife is dealing with his discomfort, and his two daughters who are college age, are on the side of the more liberal approach to life and are not really crazy about being second-class citizens as women, including, you know, not being able to get jobs, not being able to speak out. And the tension is palpable here. The movie is about 2 hours and 45 minutes long, so it's not, you know, a short trip to Tehran, but it is definitely worthwhile. It is, I guess, with subtitles, so if you don't speak the language, you know, you can read what's going on in terms of dialogue. And I just thought it was a terrific movie that speaks out against oppression, totalitarianism, and it's powerful. I thought it was really something else.
All right, that's in theaters.
The Seed of the Sacred Fig in select theaters. Now, how about a couple things we can watch at home? You don't even have to leave your home on Thanksgiving weekend to watch the following two movies. Director David Gordon Green kicked off his career with a very well-received rural set drama called George Washington. Not about the president, but, you know, that's the title. And it was followed by kind of the more rom-com-y All the Real Girls and the broad stoner comedy Pineapple Express, and various other middling offerings. And then most recently, he went on to revive the Halloween horror franchise, and he did the latest half-ass sequel to the original Exorcist. He started out strong, but he may be one of the most uneven directors working today. And now, with the dramedy Nutcrackers, Green takes on a quasi-holiday movie about a driven businessman from Chicago, played by Ben Stiller, who is roped into visiting his late sister and brother-in-law's 4 recently orphaned kids living on the family farm in small-town Ohio. And this all happens a few days before Christmas. So Stiller's character, the uncle, who is Uncle Mike to the kids, he's visiting as a local social worker, played by Linda Cardellini, is trying to place the boys with a foster family, even if 4 boys, including a teenager, are a tough sell. And so is this movie. The kids, played by a quartet of real brothers, are obnoxious, as is Stiller's work-obsessed Uncle Mike, and the story beats are generally as predictable as the ho-ho-hos of a department store Santa. The kid's mother was a rising ballet dancer in New York City before hightailing it to the boondocks with her hippie husband and giving birth to and raising the 4 boys. And her dance career and its legacy leads to the uncle and his nephews planning and executing an amateur performance of the Nutcracker to show potential foster parents that the kids would be a blessing to adopt. This has its moments, but it ain't
It's a
no
funny
holiday
premise.
It's not a holiday classic. It wasn't, again, not terrible. Michael Snyder, The Mark Thompson Show.
Yeah.
It's on Hulu, by the way, so you can make up your own mind if you have a Hulu subscription. It's available right now. And, again, it has some moments, but, yeah, not a holiday classic. Let's wrap things up with something that really hit my sweet spot, Beatles 64. So you can't get enough of the Beatles? You're in luck. The massive and revealing Get Back documentary, which was done by the great Peter Jackson, may have given an intimate view of the band as it was splintering near the end of the band's run. But Beatles 64 takes a absolutely fascinating and very entertaining look at the band on the rise during a crucial 2-week period in early 1964 when they first visited the United States and essentially woke America up from the lingering nightmare that was the Kennedy assassination that had just happened a couple months previous to this in November of 1963. So this is directed by David Tedeschi, and it's incorporating footage from the Males Brothers documentary of the era that they shot the Beatles for a period of time on their trip. I think the thing they made was called The Beatles in America, but these guys who made Beatles 64 got access to that footage and also performance footage from the Ed Sullivan Show and some concert footage. And using Peter Jackson's wonderful technological know-how, they spruced everything up. And there is interview and candid stuff that we haven't seen before. The boys and their vigor and wit are on full display. And I just thought it was really a worthwhile, I guess we'd call it roughly an hour and a half with the Beatles in New York City.
Where can I spend that hour and a half? Where do I see it?
It is on Disney Plus, and it was co-produced by Martin Scorsese and by surviving Beatles Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr, both of whom appear, along with George Harrison's widow Olivia and the late John Lennon's son Sean. And Harrison and Lennon have archival interview clips that are there. And there are a few other people involved, and I thought it was really a treat, So,
that's good stuff on Disney Plus. And when in 1964, the Beatles were working on what, Hard Day's Night, or that had already happened?
No, that was yet to come. They hadn't even done their album Beatles 65 yet. So,
So we see them sort of incubating some of these iconic songs. Is that what you're saying?
This is the beginning of their explosion of Beatlemania in America. They were promoting the Capitol release Meet the Beatles with I Saw Her Standing There. She Loves You was a hit at the time. And one of the coolest things about this is there's a lot of there's significant footage of the DJ Murray the K, who branded himself the fifth Beatle and wangled these interviews and hotel room moments with the Fab Four. And we see him kind of wiggling his way into the inner sanctum as best as he can. And it really was a treat, an absolute treat, and kind of a cool thing for a holiday weekend to watch. And again, it's on Disney Plus. Nutcrackers is on Hulu, and the other movies are in theaters.
All right. I'm loving this. So quickly, Beatles 64, you heard it. Michael really loves it, encourages you to check it out. Nutcrackers, the director David Gordon Green directed comedy with Ben Stiller and Linda Cardellini. It's on Hulu. He says it's not a holiday classic. There's some cute sequences, there's some funny stuff, but it kind of misses as a kind of a cornerstone holiday movie. The Seed of the Sacred Fig in select theaters is the film from Iran. Michael really liked it and encourages us to see it in select theaters. Queer is the Daniel Craig offering. He is the expat in Mexico City. The gay James Bond is south of the border. He ends up in the jungle with Drew Starkey and a Leslie Manville performance of Dr. Cotter. She's unrecognizable in this role. He really liked Queer and said, go for it. Isn't that right, Michael?
Yeah, it's not going to be for everyone. It may upset the more faint-hearted amongst us, but yeah, I thought it was really good.
All right. Now I'm actually more intrigued than I was the first time. I like things that get that kind of warning label on them, Moana 2 is where we started. It's a sequel to Moana. It's a new mission. Yeah. Michael feels it doesn't have the emotional impact of the first movie. No catchy music. The sea is beautifully depicted, according to Michael's recounting of things, and even you might consider the sea another character in the film. And he does offer this one little bit, which is that there's a cliffhanger at the end, which does perhaps set the stage for an exciting return of Moana.
What?
To Moana 3. Yes, I know. I'm quite taken by it.
If you're burned out on Dwayne Johnson, yeah, well, he's back.
You know
as
what? I
Maui,
cannot burn out on Dwayne Johnson. I'm surprised you could even suggest that. I mean, I consider that almost un-American to say. He is one of the great personalities in all of entertainment, Michael Snyder, as you well know. I think you were the one who first told me that. So
please don't blame me for that. Anyway, before we sign off, I do have
never seen anything like it.
I have an absolutely wonderful recommendation for those of you who are looking for a television series and haven't caught up to Bad Sisters on Apple TV, which is an adaptation of a Belgian TV series by the comedian, actress, and writer Sharon Horgan, who stars in the show as one of the Garvey sisters, an Irish crew of 5 sisters who have been dealing with various troubles, particularly when one of the sisters is being abused by her husband. And that goes down in the first series, which you can catch up.
Yeah, I saw that part. Yeah. So what happens in the second part? They have to kill somebody else?
I don't want to spoil anything, Mark, but in the second one, a new adversary to the sisters emerges, played by the great character actress Fiona. I don't know, her name escapes me right now, but she's something else.
Okay.
And I do want to say, one of the women who play the sisters, including Anne Marie Duff and Eva Berthisel and Sarah Green, are wonderful. And a special shout out goes to the totally engaging Eve Hewson, who is a legacy kid. She's a Nepo baby. She's Bono's daughter, and she plays the youngest of the 5 sisters.
Wow.
And she has real talent. No surprise, I guess, but to have that kind of legacy of the superstar dad and come out from his shadow is pretty impressive. And I think Eve Hewson has been embarking on a really successful career as an actress, and she's great as the baby of the 5 girls, Becca. I highly recommend Bad Sisters, available on Apple TV.
Bad Sisters, it's on Apple TV. Michael, I wish we could continue.
No,
but we
that's
must wrap up. It's really a nice run through all of those great offerings: Moana, Queer, The Seed of the Sacred, Nutcrackers, Beatles 64, and Bad Sisters. You can read Michael and discover more about Michael following him on social media. Are you on Blue Sky yet, Culture Blaster?
I am.
Are you on Blue
I
Sky?
am cultureblaster.bluesky.social. Absolutely.
Okay. And we are the MTS on Blue Sky. The MTS. So he
Excellent.
comes and goes on a rainbow. Michael, it is so fun to chat with you on this day before Thanksgiving. Have a great Thanksgiving.
Thank you. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, and go Niners.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.